So I went to Goodwill and I found this. This is the RCA CC415 VHS camcorder. This camcorder seems to not exist. And when I say not exist, I mean I've gone all over the internet trying to find literally any information on this camera. The only thing I've really been able to successfully find about it is images and videos of the camera itself. The problem that I'm having is I need a manual. It didn't even come with its charger, adapter, or anything. And in fact, I couldn't even find the exact adapter because the thing with this camera, it seems to be some sort of lost physical product. Like, it doesn't exist. You can't buy it anywhere. This is a piece of 80s technology, but this specific model, I believe, was made somewhere around 1990 to 1992. So it's a pretty bulky piece of technology. It's fairly heavy. It's roughly around 15 to 20 pounds. The thing about the camera is it really came by itself, so there's no tape inside. The cable that I ended up finding was not the specific cable that I need that comes with the camera. It was actually a PS2 Slim adapter that you basically use to connect a controller to your PlayStation. And amongst the good news, being able to charge the camera and actually power it on, unfortunately I ran into a new problem. The new problem is that the camera doesn't seem to turn on unless it's plugged in. But you know what, at the time I really didn't think much of it. All I thought was, I just need to find a manual, and then I can figure out exactly what I need to do to power this thing properly. But then that's when I discovered this sack of shit. So it turns out, the RCA CC415 is in fact an identical camera, literally one-to-one identical camera, to the Hitachi VM2400A, a Japanese original that apparently was rebadged into RCA. So in a sense, this camera is actually just a simple rebrand. It essentially moved from one company to another, which, although explains why I can't find any information on it or a manual, but more than that, I had just solved my previous problem, because upon looking up the VM2400A by Hitachi, I found a manual pretty quickly. However, this is when things get really disgusting. It turns out that in order to charge the battery that is attached on the back of the camera, you actually need to have a battery charger. That this cable is actually the charger to charge the charger to charge the battery to charge the camera. So you can clearly see I want to blow my brains out. And you're probably thinking, well, what's the big deal? You just have to find the charging block somewhere on eBay and buy it. Yeah, that sounds like something a boneheaded retard would say. So when I tried searching up for the specific model number for this charging block, it turns out that the only thing I get on eBay and Etsy and a few other websites is basically the camera and the entire camera kit. So in a sense, the only way that I could possibly get around this problem is if I buy the Hitachi VM2400A. Say hello to the RCA CC415. So there is such a thing as salvaging parts, and although it is relatively inefficient to have two of the exact same camera from the 80s that probably both don't work, at least now I have the actual charging adapter, and on top of that I also have the boom light. And although I don't have a working RCA CC415 user manual, I do have a Hitachi VM2400A user manual. And you remember how I said earlier that both of these cameras essentially are functionally the same camera? My next biggest idea was to look up the Hitachi VM2400A user manual, because although I do need to take different steps when operating certain processes of these cameras, they both work the same exact way. Alright, big deal. Who gives a shit? Two of the same exact camera. You might be wondering why I did this. Well, because specifically this camera is missing parts that this camera has. Mainly it's this part, which is the CPS-012. It's the charging block that is used to charge the battery adapter that's meant to plug into the camera. Now, it might look like it's charging and everything's working well, but unfortunately, it seems to be blinking profusely. Usually a signal that something isn't quite right. Although I can't plug anything into the battery pack, the RCA works exactly the same. It's just you plug the battery block directly onto the back of the camera, along with the battery attached to the block. However, unfortunately, it looks like the battery doesn't actually fit onto it. But it's not a compatibility issue, it's a feature. It turns out this little springy plastic black piece goes in and out every single time something touches it from the battery end, and it pokes out on the camera end. In fact, this camera actually came with its entire camera set, which means that everything that I need to operate both of these cameras is in this box. Except for a manual. So this prevailing issue of not having an actual working user manual is starting to creep under my skin, and I'm beginning to get crazy thoughts running through my mind. So suddenly I get this box in the mail,
and opening it up, it's the same exact camera. Evidently, it's the exact same model that I already found at Goodwill. The only difference is it actually has all of the missing parts that I need. But then I come across this issue where the charging block doesn't seem to actually attach to the camera if the battery is attached to it. I mean, I don't know exactly what I need to do, but at this point, I'm running out of options, and I feel like I'm just picking at straws.
And although I don't have a working RCA CC415 user manual, I do have a Hitachi VM2400A user manual. Now, with that being said, I hit a major brick wall. While operating this new camera that I got in the mail, after hitting eject, there was an actual piece of recorded VHS on this camera.
Holy shit, this has tape in it. Well, fuck, now I need to get a VHS player. Holy shit.
So as you can imagine, at this point, I was ecstatic. Finding actual tape inside the camera with about an hour's worth of footage, I needed to see it. However, it was clear at this point that there were a lot of glaring issues with this specific camera that I think needed to be addressed, and I think that we found it at this exact moment.
Oh, okay, that's not good. Something is really wrong with this.